The S&P 500, the Nasdaq 100, we're jumping right into it. No gimmicks. Let's get to it. Today, we had CPI data come out. It was absolutely gorgeous. It was absolutely beautiful. Things couldn't have gone better. But sometimes the market doesn't necessarily agree with that. Now, when we look at the data specifically, is investing.com absolutely free. The link is down. It's not down below because I'm not affiliated with them. Hashtag investing.com. Reach out to Tyler. Let's lock in a deal here, right? Investing.com, it's free. Anyways, yeah, type it in. CPI, core CPI came in 0.2 month over month, year over year, 4.7 with a 4.8% expectation, still on the decline. Number one, CPI normal, not core. 3.2, still on the decline. Jobless, okay. PPI is tomorrow. Now, let's talk. What does this mean for the market? Well, beginning of the day, yeah, the market loved it. You went up. You were like boom shakalaka into 10 o'clock. It was beautiful, or 9 o'clock. And then done, right? ES, same thing. Done. Push down. That's how the day went. Absolutely brutal. Absolutely tough. Data was buenos nachos. Market action. That's where we were. Okay. Now, before I jump into that, I want to talk about a little bit what's happening here. Some things I'm watching, right? To get a feel, to get a little tug of war of how are we really moving out there? What's the next move? How, are we going to get the breakdown, or are we going to break back up? And you're looking at the title of this video. You're like, easy money. Is that clickbait? I believe it's not actually. I'll tell you now. Now, the few things, I want to talk about the worrisome before we talk about the good. Worrisome parts. This is DXY. It is still a descending triangle on the daily, but you look pretty good short term. Short term, you have a false breakdown, you pop back up, get back into support, you're pushing back up. You can also see this daily candle here on DXY, the dollar. Okay, if you don't know about the dollar, ask down below. I'd love to answer your questions about it. I'll talk a little bit how it affects the stock market. But yeah, beautiful daily. I mean, if we had that on the stock market, I would be licking my chops. I'd be all in. I'd be rub-a-dub-a-dub. We'd be going to get a steak dinner tonight with Allie. But you know what? We're having Taco Bell tonight because the market wasn't so generous just yet. So that's where we're at right now. But I will say the possibility of pushing up, getting rejected is still definitely there based on how we've been moving over like the past half a year, basically, right? Now, a little bit further, U.S. oil. This is a big subject that I've been talking about. U.S. oil, crude. Now, I've gone into detail about this, and I want to cover this really quick. If we look at crude, you typically move in channels for an extended period of time, right? It's not abnormal. This is how you move on crude. It usually stays in a channel for 3-4 months, breaks out of it, breaks above, then channels again after like a week or two. It's the same trend. You're going to notice it over and over. This is one of the most simple things, equities, commodities to chart. Very simple structure, right? Now, over the past year or two, we've had a lot more volatility up and down, a lot less trending. But now, since basically November, you've been in this little bit of a trend, right? We've seen it. Now, the question here is, are you breaking back out of it? That's the $1 million question, and I can't give you that answer just yet. Now, based on OPEC and based on cuts and things along those lines, it makes sense of why you're going up. And I'm going to tell you right now, if the market continues up, I do think oil will follow the market unless something changes with OPEC. And I don't think that's going to change quickly at all. Okay, so that's where we're at. So that's the ugly part. And telling you why energy going up and the dollar has historically marked out, a risk-off mentality, meaning you'd rather be in the dollar, you'd rather be in a commodity like oil instead of being in stocks. Okay. Easiest, simplest way to put it. And when oil started coming down, stocks started to go up. So it's also things we should be considering. Okay. Got that out of the way. So we understand that. Okay. Trade this off my chart. Now, I'm going to go a little bit on a rant. So bear with me. We need to go to my office. We're back in the basement. I know. Like I said, no breakout. Back in the basement. Taco Bell, steak dinner. Basement. Right? That's where we're at. That's where we're grinding right now. But I have to just come to this conclusion of what's happening and where we're at. We, on a technical visual, and I'll go over in a second, on the daily and the weekly and monthly, the market still looks good. And if we charted this out, which we will in a second, it still points to me you're at support on ES and on the Nasdaq. Now, the biggest factor here to me, let me double check really quick. I'm beep, beep, bop, boop. I'm looking real quick. Refresh. Come on, AOL, kick in for me. Good. Gazpacho. Now, the big thing here, and I was checking to make sure your volume was good today. I don't know why you're not breaking down. Okay. That's the biggest thing here. Because we've broken, and that's what kind of been the topic over the past week, is you're breaking support after support, but there's not a follow through from sellers. Okay. And you'll see what I mean here in a second. But that's the issue here. Now, the also good point, we not only that we mentioned technicals, which we'll cover, but the other thing is fundamentally what the Fed wants to happen. They've been saying it for about a year and a half. So if you don't know what they want, you haven't been listening, right? What they want is inflation to go down, disinflation. They would like unemployment to rise, but they only want unemployment to rise because when unemployment rises, inflation usually drops. So it's like a caveat, right? Well, we'll come back to unemployment. So we're going to take unemployment off the table. Right now, what do we know they want? They want disinflation above all else. 2% is the goal. Okay. And in an ideal world, right, the Fed wants to protect the economy. Okay. They got to keep a balance in the economy. And something's happening that's interesting, right? Rates, the baddest thing right now is rates are at tippity top levels, like bad, right? And we haven't rose them in this sense where we were rising and then we usually pause and pull back and then we raise more. And it's like a stair step, right? You give 2, you take 1, 2, 1, 2, 1 like that, right? Stair step up and get to get higher. But now, you know, we're at the peak of raising rates. You're having more Fed members than not come out and say, slow it down there, Jimmy. Right? And so when I look at this from a fundamental perspective, until energy affects data that we know of, that's in front of us, that gets released and CPI comes out higher or slower or stalls out, until that happens, from a fundamental viewpoint, and you're going to hate me from this, how are you not bullish? That's my question. You're getting disinflation and you're showing growth on the economy. 2 things. And I'm feeling wild today. Ride the waves. And so when I look at this, I'm pushing this corner of I don't see the reason to short yet until you get the data, until you get the reason. It's like we've been saying for over like 8 months now. When do we expect downside? When data comes out and gives us that reasoning. Okay? That's when we expect downside. And what I mean by on the higher time, we look here. This is the 1-day chart, right? Higher lows, higher highs have been established for essentially going back to August or October last year. Almost a year now, right? You're pushing up, breaking up. Now, I admit, I see it. I'm not biased. You've pulled back a little bit here, around 150 points on ES. But on ES, how much have you pushed up since just March? Where we're at now, around 700 points. I'm just saying, okay? So this pullback is like, in comparison, is not much, right? Just like back here when we pulled back, go back into June, right? Everyone's like, oh my God, we're pulling back, we're going to die, and you shot back up, right? So pullbacks are good for the market. But another thing we have to identify, you have to go to the weekly, and I always say top-down approach. But this here is like the big thing you have to be watching. And like I said, this is where everyone loses their money. And I promise you, people are losing money right now. They just probably don't want to be honest with you. Okay, I've already talked about my Apple loss and all that. I've already talked about it. I've been pumping the brakes. I've taken some day trade. That's about it. You got to get in and get out. But what you see here is you're basing, right? Clear. Base, you push. Base, you pushed, and you came back and retested. And this is a weekly chart. So the idea that we're just going to drop right through this is slim to none. It's like 100 points of just chop, right? We have to understand that. If you look back, very similar to some of this previous action that we had back here, back in 2020, 2021, you can see very similar structures, okay? I'm giving you just a few examples. Let's just draw a few out, right? Get a little bit of a basing there. Let me see really quick. It just happens over and over. This is the weekly chart, right? This is not the daily. This is not a scalping chart. It's over and over. You base, and this here you based obviously more than right now. You based, you pulled up, came back, bounced, right? You pushed back up. Okay, it just continues. It's just pattern over and over and over and over. You just pattern, push and push and push, and you can see it happens, right? And then we're back in that period. Go back to previous years, wherever you might look, right? It just happens over and over and over and over and over. You can see you kind of trend sideways here. You extend that a little bit. Base, push, base, push. It's just going to keep happening, right? Supply and demand. It's the easiest way to look at this, right? So what happens? You base here, you come back down, bounce, higher lows continue to happen here. Very similar to what's happening in the market now. Still pushing up, you get above, and then eventually you run to all-time highs. Same thing here. Now, what I will say here is we just don't have enough time here, but still you're basing and still making higher lows. Okay, so what constitutes a lower low to be established really quick? Okay, so where was your initial push? And this is the part where no one likes because we all get mad and we all get like super glum. We're like, oh, that just doesn't side with my thesis. Okay, so you push up here, that's your low. You push up, got a low here. And then you push up and break, get a low here. I wouldn't even count this because the pullback was so slim. But even if that's where your first lower low would be, and I still don't even want to side with that, but benefit of the doubt, 14.8 is like where your lower low gets put in. Even if you break below this, it's not because you didn't get a pullback. You continue to push up. Okay, we all understand that, right? And so that's what you're seeing established here. So you're just kind of coming down to this level. I'm just at this point, I'm like, I can't go short yet. I can't. Especially because we don't have the fundamental reason. And this video is a lot different than most videos I'll make here. I just want to give a better look into my visual of this market, right? Because if you follow me on Twitter, you follow us here, you follow us on Instagram, TikTok, whatever it may be. Sometimes I understand it's hard to give you the best visual, right? And some of you are like, well, what do you mean? This price action is treacherous. Because it is. It is. Bronx Viking, I like you. I like Colin a lot. I don't think this is a scalper's paradise. I also, too, expert mode, I don't really know. Maybe I'm just I could be misinterpreting this. But, like, why would I want to trade when it's extremely, extremely hard? Why would I not wait, sit on my money, and then trade when it's not expert mode or not extremely difficult or not extremely choppy and there's clear direction and you're bouncing and you actually get a breakthrough through a major support and you drop actually, or you break above some resistance and you continue to push, you get follow through, right? Why would I not wait for that? That's the question. Because we look here, and again, we talked about it yesterday. We talked about how terrible it's been. Triple bottom here, you break down, nothing happens. You bounce back up. You break down again, you just bounce back. Go up here, you come. It's just chop city. Now, I will say you're clearly in a trend. It's very easy to see the trend that we are in, right? And this is kind of like where you have to wait for this to break. Just get out of the trend, hold above, get some type of candle close above that, right? But until then, you're just slowly chopping and you're just killing your account. Okay? Telling you from experience, telling you honestly, this is terrible, terrible action to trade. But I'm going to tell you right now, if I had to side with anything right now, technicals and fundamentals for me are still bullish. Until we can start breaking 14.8, at least 14.8. I don't know how you side with the bearish longer term viewpoint still, right? We haven't made a lower low. We've higher highs put in. I will say the price action lately is terrible. But again, volume today, 92 million. 92 million volume. And this is your action. You're just sitting on top of support still. This is SPY for all you SPY lover boys, right? Right there. Still on previous highs. Nothing's happened. It's a major battle. There's no clear decision here on the market. That's my visual. That's my viewpoint. Little quick things I'll go over real quick. Looking at some of the flow coming in, SPY on the day. It's not great. I already know. It's a little back and forth. You had some bigger ones coming here, but a little dated. But the shorter dated ones are still bearish. So it's back and forth we go here. Q is not ideal. Sweeps, short dated coming in from next week contracts. Prayers up to you. That's wild. But yeah, that's pretty weird that you'd go that short dated with that much money. Dear God. IWM really getting slapped here as well. So again, the flow does side bearish, right? I will say that. And again, I don't know how to say this any more clearly. Like people ask questions, or they say things, they're just confused, or I don't know if I say things in a confusing way. I try to clarify. I recognize that bulls are not showing up right now. I 100% recognize this action is terrible from bulls and bull behavior. You're buying and then you stop and you drop. It's bad. I agree. But I still say, technically speaking, not price action wise, it's happening here right now on the day or today or short dated or the next 2 hours of trading or just tomorrow, Friday or Monday morning. From a daily, weekly time frame perspective, it's a textbook retest as of right now. You're just waiting to get confirmation. You're waiting to get some volume, especially follow through volume, right? That's what you're waiting for. It's still an opportunity, in my opinion, when I look at contracts and where we're at. We're in dangerous territory. I will say that we are getting into dangerous territory, but it's like the last line here. Like sellers got to step in very soon, or else it's going to be a cycle of the same. Especially when I look at fundamental data. Inflation continues to drop. Data does not lie with what's in front of us. And then we also have a major support we're sitting on. I'm just saying, everything the Fed wants is happening. That's my opinion. Don't attack me. Unfollow if you need to. I'll be here tomorrow. I'll be here all week. Have a good one, traders.